Let's see if everything is up and rolling. That one's going. Let me see. Okay. Just gotta check to make sure everything's going, streaming right. Okay, we're gonna look at a game between Emanuel Lasker as black and Miles as white. Let me make sure everything's streaming proper though. But we'll just, while we're waiting, we'll just go over it. Okay, there's E4. Actually, we'll flip the board so that you can actually see it from Emanuel Lasker's side of the board. Okay. There we go. We're gonna see if the streaming. It looks like it's doing good. So, yep, good. We're Operation Go on both. Okay. We got that chat. We'll see. I make sure I got the chat bar popped out. And I got the right chat bar. Yep, I do. It's all good. Okay, we'll minimize this, and now we're ready to go. So we have Emanuel Lasker again is black, and Miles is white. So there. Oops, we gotta come over here. I'll come back to this page. Come back to the light, as I like to say. Okay, let's see. So now what black is planning on doing is setting up to actually get all of his pieces developed and then go for a central attack. White is going to play the fianchetto line, and I believe this is the Vienna game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is. So we're going to get to see how they set that up. And yep. So I got all the. If you see anything that you want to, talk about or anything in the game going on, just put it in the chat and we'll look at it. All right. Okay, so now fianchettoed bishop to g2, and let's see what we got here. I want to make sure this is good. Perfect. Okay. All right. So fianchettoed here, then you see the attacks that black could actually come in with. Probably next one will be a6. Okay. The a6 line is. Why do you think the a6 line was played? It's an idea that you have to think really, really, really deep on. We'll see if you could see it. Excellent. It stops the knight from coming in, prepares b5, and just in case white decided to castle queenside. Also, it allows no longer the only place the knight could jump into is d5. So it's kind of one of those prophylactic ideas that you can have an attack, also potentially fianchetto, and get a lot of bang, as I like to say, out of your move. So d6. See now this is what we're talking about. Each side's trying to develop. It's who has the better position. If we were to judge this position, what would you say would be the best line for? Best. Who would you say is the best in this position? I should actually say. If you're saying black, you're more likely right, probably by just a small amount. And the reason is, white has, yes, he has good pawn center. They have good pawn center here, but the bishop, light square bishop, is actually blocked by their own pawn. So this bishop is kind of neutralized to any attack. And maybe Miles was considering queen, bishop, castle, queen side, and then going f4 to kind of free up the position, something similar to that. And we'll get to see what happens in the game. So he's going to castle kingside. So very almost same position except for the fianchettoed bishops. There it is. Castled and then castle, and then bishop e7 or e6. This idea is an interesting move too, because if you play bishop takes, pawn takes, then you have an idea of knight into d5, d4, and that's attacking this knight. And you're trying to remove and cause a lot of issues. Interesting. So he didn't go down that line. Wow. Let's see. So d7. The idea basically is trying to trade off white's great defenders on the king side and prepare for probably f4 pretty soon coming in to unleash the rook. But Miles takes and Lasker takes. So now all of Lasker's pieces are starting to flow. And remember the idea of f4. That's going to be a big one. So f5. So that's why white instantly lashes out and says, I'm going to play that first. And so they do, and that's what the move of the king over is, to get outside of the pin on the pawn on f2. So takes, and now we'll step back and take a look at the game. What would you say is, who do you say is winning here? Because you always gotta think about how's my position, and is my position going the way I want it to? And so let's see. What do you think? Who's better? If you're saying black, yes. And there's a couple reasons why. The reason is development. He has 3 developed pieces. White has 0 developed pieces. You could basically say that the knight and rook maybe are developed, but not really. White has a tight pawn structure, but his bishop is inside the pawn chain. And we'll eventually later on, more we advance in our understanding, I'll get into more of the pawn chain and how that all works. But first we're going over games, learning ideas. And then what you do is you apply them to the concepts of chess. And that's why we're talking this out, so that you can see and learn along with us. And as we always say, team chess cruncher. So you got to be a part of the team. So f5 here. What Miles is trying to do is kind of lock down. He frees his bishop. He's trying to stop Lasker from playing f5 here. So he plays f5 instead, which also neutralizes Lasker's knight from going into g6 here, knight g6. And so it's kind of, but remember, every move has a drawback. And the drawback to this move, we're going to go back for a second, is it loses control of g5. But you have to say, what does it gain? It stops the knight, and there's no really in routes for Lasker's knight to come. He wants to come to g4 here, and g4 would be a game-changing move, because there would be no way for white to stop the checkmate on the h2 pawn. And so that they're always playing ideas. Ideas this, ideas that. So queen comes back, because there's really nothing for Lasker to place. You'd probably say, let's just go full bore on the attack. How is he going to actually do that? So probably Lasker's thinking, I really can't make any progress on the king side at the moment. Is there any play on the queen side? So he's probably going to be asking himself, do I have any play over here? are, do I have any breaks? A break is when you like push a pawn and then another pawn takes and then takes. That's considered a break. So we're gonna get to see here. Whoa, Miles is going all in on that one. You gotta love this move here. Takes, G takes F6, rook takes F6. And so now, I know you're thinking that's looking pretty sad for Lasker, but actually Lasker could play G6 to actually cover up his, king, his weak file here. This is kind of an interesting position. I don't know. I might even actually play King H8 and then try to bring my rook in and maybe hammer that pawn. Let's see if he does that. He plays that move. Now the queen's coming in. So now what's happening is he's trying to pile up on the F7 pawn. See if he can't take advantage of that. Maybe, let's see, could he actually get a knight into attack though? Let me see. Yeah, he could. He could come this way and get a knight to attack this pawn, but that's pretty slow. It's kind of getting a little very dynamic. There's something called static and dynamic. Static is where, like, if all the pawns are locked, there'd be slow mobilizing of your pieces. They'd jump around the board finding the best spots. Dynamic is when stuff starts opening up, like a file just opened up, and pretty soon there might be another file over here that opens up, and then there's actually more play. So, okay, dokie, let's see. Excellent. So, rook, oops, let me come over here. Knight, G. He's going the route here. He's trying to stop. That's actually not a bad move. I like that move from Lasker. Now he's attacking. He's preparing the onslaught. Oh, he's locking down the position, allowing this knight to come back. Bishop D. They're trying to maybe play H3, bishop B4, trade off maybe Lasker's bishop. Knight E7. There's an idea of actually jumping into D4. It's too bad this knight was here, because then that'd be a fork on the queen and rook. So we'll see what his idea is. Okay. He's trying to come and get a little attack on H6 here, protected by the bishop, which indirectly attacks the pawn on F3. So pretty cool. Alright, so we're going to minimize this. Okay. Let's see what we got here. F5. That's actually not too bad of a move. He's trying to open up lines onto the queen. And you're probably like, what is that move? You're probably saying, what's this move here? Well, Lasker wants to play pawn takes, and he wants to have enough defenders so that if queen takes, rook takes, and queen takes. Oops. Not there. Queen takes. And there's enough defenders. But remember, drawback to every move, he loses another defender on F5 here. So you gotta say, is it worth? Yes, because you're thinking, can he just take with the pawn? And that's what he does. So it was 3 versus 3 for defending. Now it's 2, and so Miles actually won a pawn here. Lasker is playing D5 he now wants to control the center, and he has on the king side or queen side, he has a majority, a 4 versus 5 majority. One of these pawns is going to end up becoming a passed pawn. So let's see how he actually. Oops. Oh no. Go back. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, takes. Sorry about that. I gotta get that right. There we go. Bishop f6 here. Attacks the rook, forces it to move. He plays f7. Boy, isn't it looking like Emanuel Lasker could actually, go down in flames on this one? But somehow, he actually pulls it out. Everybody calls Tall the magician. I gotta say, Emanuel Lasker has won some games that look almost impossible, but he never gives up, and he slowly squeezes, and eventually his opponents break because they can't hold it together like he can, and they usually push too hard. So remember, if you have a one position and like you're up material, like Miles is up one pawn, you can actually trade into an end game where you could potentially win there. But Miles, you're going to see, is going to push and push and push. He's going to overextend, and we're going to get to see how that works. Now the queen comes back to e8, and we're going to get to see he's coming. He might be coming rook g7 there. I'm thinking that's the idea. And then what would happen is takes here, and queen takes would be mate. So yeah, this is the idea here. Good playing from white. It's just sad that he lost the game. It's pretty incredible how he could lose this game, actually, with so many pieces attacking. This is an amazing move. He put a knight right on g6. Let's see, let me just check something out. I just gotta make sure I have this right. Yeah, there. Okay. Because the whole idea on g6 is actually if pawn takes here. And of course, you see smack. That was kind of one of those cheapo ideas, but it works. Hey, he is able to make Miles flinch, get off the open GF file. So that's, oops, there we go. So he comes back after he moves because there's no more pin, and so that he would actually outright lose his knight. Then bishop comes into g7. Wow. Takes, rotakes, and then queen f8. Man, I gotta tell you, he wow. And actually, he came out a whole piece up. Surprisingly, he has actually he's 3 pawns down, isn't he? Miles is actually up a rook and a pawn for Lasker's only bishop. So this, most of us would probably be like, oh no, I'm losing. But remember, stay in there, be a tiger, don't give up. You got this. Got to say that to yourself. Otherwise, Emanuel Lasker would have just kind of given up, but he didn't. He just slowly maneuvered around. He knows that he has, again, a majority of pawns. So he's basically playing for the passed pawn. And it's making Miles have to think. What do I want to do? How can I get in? I can't bring any more pieces in. He can't bring any more pieces to an attack. You need, in theory, you need 3 pieces. But like if there's a lone king, sometimes a knight and a queen could actually mate the king. So don't always think that it's just 3. Sometimes you could break the rules, but you have to master the rules first. So he comes back, knight c3. Knight f6. Now Lasker's saying it's time to push back, and so he's pushing all of Miles' pieces. One piece goes back. Now the queen comes in. He comes closer in. The other piece goes back. Wow. Rook comes in. Now it's trying to maneuver. Miles is trying to get another knight, maybe into g4. Knight takes, queen takes, and maybe he can get his pass pawn rolling. So they both have a potential passers. There it is. There's the idea. Kerplunk. And now they're protecting the pawn, and they're still protecting the rook. So there's Emanuel Lasker's doing a lot of things with just that move. He takes, knight takes, knight to d3. Ooh, he has this idea here, or here. So now it comes down to the knights, and there's the pawn that we were talking about. Wow, that's an incredible game because in theory, I'm just going back to 29, move 29 out of the move 43 from 43, and I'm like, it looks like Miles is completely winning here, but with just a little bit of the magician, Emanuel Lasker, he all of a sudden just turns the position all around on its face with just a couple moves. And then I love this move here. I just love Queen C6 going. I don't have to do anything. You have to do something now. And he flinches and goes D takes E4. And this is the complete losing move here. I actually think this move's losing. I don't know why he played. That's a complete blunder here. I think he should have just actually just played this here. Knight takes E4. That makes the most sense. And then if rook takes, then you have potentially Queen F1. He'd probably play D4 here, threatening a discovery. So what you'd do is you'd welcome it by just taking. Queen takes, and then queen comes, and then now you got to be careful. There's this type of a move, threatening now check, and when the queen intercepts, mate. So white would basically have to play H3. Oops, wait a second. That would be a mistake there, because you could just win that. So that's not the best one there. Let's erase this. So D6 has to get erased. Let me make sure I erase that. So at this point, takes, or he might actually just maybe move up with a check right away, and just say perpetual here because you actually have one. I think probably if it got to this position, Lasker probably would go for that. Maybe he'd push, maybe. But when you're down 3 pawns and you have a position like this with a potential 2 passers, I'd probably go for a draw on that one there. So, but he ended up pushing. The player made a blunder, a complete blunder on that, and it goes. And I don't know why he just didn't take here. See, even with a check there, he can play that. Boy, I don't know what happened to Miles. He actually could have potentially held the position. Oh, that's the reason. Okay. It loses a rook. I want to see what they say about this move here. Taking, rook takes. Oh, discovery. Discovery. And then mate. Whoa. Yeah, I guess he was toasted at that point. So he kind of tried his best. Okay, let's see what we got here. Brilliant. Just want to make sure everything's... Okay, perfect. Alright, so now we're going to go to our next game. That was the game that Emanuel Lasker won. This is a draw in the game, so we're going to go down 3 more after this one. So we have 5 games that we're going to do. We've already done 1. So e4, e5, knight c3, and knight c6. The interesting thing is, and Lasker was talking about him playing Miles, that he's always had a really good result against him. Where one of his hardest players to beat was Capablanca. He did beat him a couple times, but he was the one that took the title away from Lasker. So he actually played against Steinitz, which was a really interesting. We'll have to do some of those games that him and Steinitz played. They were masterpieces. But I love watching them. I call him the magician because they call Tall that. I think Emanuel Lasker was a positional magician. Some people were saying that it's Karpov. Karpov's probably a modern person of Emanuel Lasker's style, but I think Emanuel Lasker's the classical guy. Let me get a drink here. Okay, alrighty. But great job if you're keep following along, or if you're watching this later and you have some kind of ideas that are nice and stuff, you can put it in the comments and I'll take a look at it and see if I can answer it. And please, it would help if you followed and subscribed on YouTube and on Twitch. That'd be nice as well. Helps the stream. So castles. You see how they're all developing here? They all have their development. Surprisingly, whoops, I need to flip the board. Black is Emanuel Lasker. It's very interesting. It looks very similar to the position that they played before, but there's one difference. H3. And I think it was that white castled sooner, and then black came in. This is really interesting how the knight would kind of like, you're going to be able to start seeing in some openings if you get mastery in them. You can see how certain openings blend into other openings, and you're going to basically be able to start mastering. Like if you master the French, there's a line called the Black Lion. You can actually start working that type of a line too. And there's a lot of other stuff, like if you play the London, you can actually later on transfer into the Tromposky attack, or opening variation. So c3 here, and I like that he played h6. It kind of looks like a move. Why would you play h6? h6 is so that Emanuel Lasker can keep his dark square bishop. Sometimes I play this with black when I try to set up a French defense, which is this is not a French defense. A French defense would be e6 and then d5. But I sometimes you can actually play this and play then b5 at that point and start getting some attack going. Or if you get c4 and we'll have to do some, or c5, we'll have to do some French defense lines. It's always fun. King h2. Now he's protecting the pawns. His king's safe. He's more likely going to go f4. And you have to ask yourself when you're playing against your opponents. When my opponent's king goes to h2, what am I going to? Why did basically ask yourself, why did he do that? And what's his upcoming idea? And there's a couple ideas: king safety and f4. And if white can't free themselves, white's position is getting totally clamped down. And if they can't, all of his pieces are just they just look very bad. White, even though he's got space in the center, it just looks sad. F6. This is preparing for with F4 that comes, so that if he can meet F takes E5 with F takes E5, then black keeps the clamp, and he controls the open F file. Bishop F7. Good idea. I was looking at potentially D5 here, pawn takes D5. Then you could play knight and potentially reroute into these two spots. Like, then if takes, rook takes, queen comes over. If you start trading, then bishop takes, and then knight D7. And now you have this weakness here. I have a better pawn structure. You're going to eventually get control of the open F file. The bishop does come out in something like this, maybe, and attack this knight, but easily defended. Oh, yeah, easily defended with. I'm trying to think. I think, is that the best? I think this might be the best. No, that's not the best. It was the other one that we had. G6. There's an idea of H, and then what you could always do is reroute in via into there too. That's an idea of H6, knight H1, H8, F7, and into G5. When you get a slow position like this, is a kind of like a slower position. Yes, it's open. There's one open file, one half open file, but oh, that's not a good move. G4 by Miles. You gotta ask yourself, what is actually that do? It's like that doesn't really do anything. Yeah, I full agree. It's with the computer. D4 is stronger because you're saying if pawn takes, then you have the idea of either taking with the knight or taking with this knight. I think probably knight takes would start unwinding black's position, white's position. He could actually take with the bishop, but I would probably leave the bishop there because I would want to decide if I want to keep on this diagonal or if I want to play B3 and then play bishop B2 and control the H1 to A8 A1 diagonal. Depends if you want to control the C1 to H3 diagonal. There might not. You may have to transition sometimes. But G4, don't like it. Too slow. Also reveals the king. It allows this beautiful continuation that we had just priorly talked about. Knight takes D5. And now the pawn structure for white is wrecked. Not unrepairable, but it's just not nice. I don't like it. Now he's double attacking the pawn. So the only move that he could play to hold it is C4. And now we can potentially tickle that move like with B5 and try to undermine it that way. And if they take, then we have knight takes, and it's just a mess for white. And all because he had to play G4. He's got to be careful when you make every pawn move has a drawback and cannot ever go back. So just remember that. So D takes C6, knight takes C6. Now there's unwinding. Black's able to get a knight in here. You're thinking, why would Lasker undouble basically his opponent's pawns? He wants to get his knight active. And where is the knight? Could the knight go? Nowhere. So in his mind, he's thinking it's worth it to undouble white's pawns to get my knight active. And it also allows me to later on have a knight on d4. You have to ask yourself with knights, where do I want my knight to be? And that's I listened to Grandmaster Simon Williams, and he always asked the question: if I had a piece, and I can't pick it up. If I had a piece like this, actually I'll just have him make a move. If I have my knight here, where do I want it? And I'll actually go back a couple moves to show you. This knight right here, we're going back to the point where Lasker played c6. He asked himself, if I have the knight on e7, where would I love to put it? And of course, Lasker says, I want to put it on d4. How can I make that possible? And then the move c6 comes into sight. And then he takes, and now he's one step closer to getting his knight to the optimum position of d4. You're probably wondering why we go back and forth. That's how you learn. Learning is applying past knowledge to future understanding. So keep that in your forefront when you're always thinking. Always use mistakes, and even if you win, try to see if you can't find where you could have actually played even better. When you lose, try to find out where you actually went wrong, and then you can take a loss and make it a learning lesson, so it's no longer a loss. Good water. Okay. Now, here we go, d5, and away we go. Now he's trying to bust open the center. b3, rook d8. I don't like that move. I agree with the computer. Pawn takes is actually best. Then if bishop takes, he can actually take that pawn here, and if it opens up, now you could play rook take, queen takes, rook takes, rook comes in, and then if you have lots of trades, now you're getting into a kind of a majority on, he has majority on the king side, black has majority, white has majority on the queen side. So it's who can then get their pawns going first. And now you're going to get this, you see the power of this star square bishop being here. It's kind of it's like the guy in the sniper in the bushes waiting for the person to step out, and then you got him. But white has an idea. He wants to try to take over the a1 to h8 diagonal, but that's not the best move. He needs to lock this position down. I'm in full agreement with the computer on that. There's too much pressure happening. Black's king's safer than white's king. And just one move, f5, and then the bishop could come to b2. I think Miles was just one move too soon. And it's going to cost him everything. Because now that the position's opening up, Lasker has better piece development. White's pieces are all clustered up all together like saran wrap when you get it all messed up and you can't pull it out. Basically, this is kind of what's happening here. All of his pieces are all put into like a ball. Lasker's is more free to move. He's got his queen, his rook, and everything like that. Rook takes, and Lasker even played a blunder here. He has an isolated pawn, right? Unless you're willing to play around the isolated pawn, you want to kind of get rid of it. And this is a beautiful idea of d takes c4. It gets rid of it, and unless they take back, now you still have your bishop, you still have an open position. It's really, really nice for black. It's actually almost completely winning. But he made a mistake. You know what? He's not a computer. He can't make perfect moves, and nobody can. So h5 here. That's dubious. Why did he? I don't understand why he played that. Yeah, that makes more sense. This right here. E5 makes complete sense. You're centralizing you're getting ready to take this pawn. And even if you made a kind of slight boo-boo, he can reroute back to bishop a7 here. So, interesting, interesting for sure. But he played h5. We call that the hair, our little hairy pawn. That's hairy. Hairy up the board we go. King h1. Very. I don't know. It's because of this here, isn't it? She's trying. Okay, yeah, it's kind of forced. I know if you guys saw that, wonderful job. The idea is the reason the king has to step out of the way is h5 is h4 is coming, and of course you see that there's a absolute pin on the knight to the king. So Miles steps out of that so that when if he plays h4, doesn't have as much power. So now Lasker, he starts stepping up his game now. This is a step up move here. He's getting right back into the mindset of attack. Now bishop takes. Now his bishop makes sense for being on b8. Now he's attacking down two massive spots, and potentially this is going to be open up, and then you'll have a potential. He might even move his queen to c7 first. I don't. I think I might do that. He played d here. I think that's a forced move by Miles. He can't play something else. Maybe he could play queen here, but then you have this type of an attack, and if he tries something like this again, you could actually come up here. Now you connected the rooks. Then you could bring him to the center, and then yeah. Oh yeah. The tough. I think he played the correct move at this one. Trying to hold the position. Probably his next idea is going to be c5 here. Let's see. H takes, G takes. Now Lasker has an open file on the H file to kind of move his bishop up to g3, king f2. Bishop g6, king f2, and then rook h1, and then all the pieces start flowing in. So now he takes. I know that's kind of an interesting, questionable move there, but I think the idea is he wants to take away any real piece that could land on f5 here and cause some problems. So he makes a decision to just go for it on that one. Rook takes, and probably maybe bishop. So he's actually he's taking. Now these are called connected isolated pawns. They're not unless you want to trade and you have them and you're in an endgame. This is beautiful, and these were here, and it was two kings. This would be completely winning for white. So it's wow. And then there goes the pawn. And now Lasker's playing the traditional way of trading off and going into an endgame. That was another dubious move, but it's one of Miles's last kind of cheapo threats. He's trying to go for queen h7 check, and maybe he can get a perpetual with up and down or something like that. But I think Emanuel Lasker would just run away and then go to the queen side and still have the attack going. Takes, king takes. Now the pieces start flowing in, and here's a double attack. One of these pawns are going to drop. So now he's trying to get the queen to the rook to come to c4 to hold the pawn, but again one of these pawns are going to drop. And now he's starting to coordinate all of his pieces. And he's going to more likely go in for a mate pretty soon coming down the board. Good. Ooh, it was a blunder. Just win this piece here. Now you're threatening to play rook if he had played this move here, he's threatening rook e3 here, takes, and then the queen has to move, and you have lines of attack. This actually, he could have actually drawn. I think he did draw on this one. He'd probably be shocked to have seen that he could have won this move here. Dubious. Just gotta come back here and see. Okay. After there, see. Takes. Probably king up here. Takes. And then probably trading off would be his best kind of idea. But I think it's still lost. There. Now he's just gonna start moving his king in. Check. He's guarding and holding, barricading the pawn. And now he's playing rook to infiltrate in and move his king into d5. This will make it so that if he can trade a rook and pawn, and he gets down to these pawns, if he trades off these pieces, not these here, that it would be a 2 versus 1, and most definitely he can come over and win that. There we go. And you're thinking, why doesn't he just grab this? Oh, let's see. Oh, it's a check. That's why. And let me see there. So there. So this would have been an interesting idea here. I think though it would be losing because of he'd have 2 connected passers. It's over already, but there's playing out. Oh wow. He actually has a draw now. That was an incredible blunder by Lasker. There's no way to make progress. So A3. Yeah, you have to ask yourself why A3, and A3 keeps it blocks. So I gotta go back. Oh no, did I lose my spot? Let's go back. That's okay. Phew, I thought I lost my spot there. I have to flip the board. Where did he make that mistake? So I have to go back all the way down here. No, there we go. We're getting close. There we go. There we go. And now we're back to H3. A3. The idea is he's cutting off the king, and potentially now he can make his pass pawn. And there's really nothing that he could actually do here. White's kind of in Zugzwang. Any move that White plays is going to lose the game. But doesn't that move look, so winning? Yeah, but there's no way you can make any more progress. He could try this. you have a draw. And then if I think that's the only way that he can actually. When maybe Lasker can. Let's have him come here. That's a draw. Well, no, actually, it's not a draw. Actually, it is. Surprisingly, can't make any progress. Wow, that's pretty interesting. How. Okay, on to the next game. That was pretty interesting. How one move can actually take your winning position to a draw, and it's just one move. That is just crazy. Okay, Lasker again is black and his opponent is white, Miles. So this is one more game that we're doing for Miles. We have two more. This is going to be fun. E4, E5, Knight C3, Bishop C5, G6, A. It's kind of interesting how they played very similar openings constantly. A little different on the exchanges, but very similar to. But remember last time how he got F4 and was actually this move here, and then when he now Alaska get F5 in first. So I think that's why he had to play that move, and then because he didn't have time to actually do this move here. Oops, sorry, there. This knight up here because Lasker was first to the F push. So there we go. F6 again. Bishop, Queen D7 with bishop to H3, taking away the protectorate of the king. F5. There we go. Very similar position. Again, it looks so much like white has black on the back foot here, but somehow it ends up. I think he wins here. Let me make sure. Oops. Let me check really fast. Nope, it's a draw again. Comes back. The best Miles could do against Lasker was actually draw. It's kind of interesting. He either lost or drew him. There might have been maybe some games that they maybe played friendly that he might have beat him. You know what I'm saying? That could be, but on the rated ones that I've seen and tried to look up, these are the ones that I could find. So now he's threatening into F2 or C2, winning the pawn. So let's see how he handles that. Now he's Miles is threatening mate. Whoa. And with one move, there's also Grandmaster Simon Williams also said try to defend with as least material as you can to keep as much attack alive. Like there's two rook and a queen, which are together they equal 14 pawns, and it's being the person who's protecting it's only worth 3. So you have 14 pawns versus 3, and so that's not a very good use of the material that Miles has. So he'll probably have to somehow get it in, maybe a lockdown here. What if this was played here? Or played? I think that might be a game changer. I don't think he would take. Well, he. So let's see. Maybe Lasker would take here. maybe play outpost there. If taking here, surprisingly, the bishop could actually just come back. You're thinking, wait a second, why doesn't the bishop just take? Then it would be actually mate. But the interesting thing about the bishop moving to f7 is one thing. The pawn in front of the king right here, this is actually a pawn that is considered a bad pawn. It's interfering with white's idea of checkmating, and black can actually use this pawn as a shield because it can never be taken because it's white's own pawn. White would probably be like, man, if I could just take my own pawn on h7 and just move out of the way, I would have mate. But not gonna happen. So now white's got an isolated pawn, black's got an isolated pawn. White's position is, let's see how many pawn islands they have. 1, 2, and this is 3. 1, 2, so equal pawn islands. d6, bishop takes, and then knight coming crashing in on e4. It's just incredible how Miles doesn't win his game against Emanuel Lasker. It's just so many pieces attacking. I think he just maybe blunders. I don't know. That's just like Lasker is even down material up one pawn. He's got a pawn and a bishop, and Miles has a rook. And now there's a draw. Huh. I think Miles is winning. Let me see. Is it really a draw? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, everything's working so far. That's so interesting. Emanuel Lasker has these winning positions h5. But see, remember in the times that they played in 1890, they didn't think about pushing their h pawn. They didn't think about having this type of a position. They didn't also have Alpha Zero either that could teach us our stockfish. They would tell us that this is actually a playable move. Now taking, and if rook takes, then you have the bishop here. Now you're completely winning. So knight takes, king takes, and then the queen comes in, and now you got to intercept with the rook and the bishop. Queen comes in. There's this pin. Oops, that's not the spot I wanted. And then queen comes back. King moves. Takes. Check. King takes. Queen up. Probably taking here. Yeah. But it's interesting how, again, one move can turn the tide to a draw, and he did. So that we're gonna do 1 and 2 more. This is fun. Let's see how we're doing here. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. Now it's Emanuel Lasker who's white this time, so he was blacked for 2 times. So we're gonna get to see how the game goes. The computer did a lot of analysis on this one, so let's see. Let's see what we can see here. Takes there. I know what you're thinking. Just take here, yep. And then queen takes, king takes, bishop takes, knight comes into c3, knight comes out, bishop d4, castle queenside check, king c2, knight f6, pawn e7, e3. Let's see, fianchetto, bishop comes up, bishop, and then rook. And I don't see white any worse. I think actually white's better here. Pawn structure wise, white has more compact pawns, and black is up a pawn, but can he really do anything with these pawns? White's king's safe, and eventually after something like takes, come over here, takes, it's not really gonna matter much now. It's minor pieces, and just minor on that. So, but that's why I played e4, takes, queen takes. He didn't want to take with the pawn, because if he took with the pawn, then he'd have something called an isolated pawn. And what would happen is black would try to trade off their pieces and get to an endgame where he can actually take advantage of d5. So that's why the queen happened. But the queen took anyways, and now he still has the isolated pawn. But he wins. Oh, wait a second. Can't he just take that there? I think what he was afraid of was b5. Huh. I'm curious here. It's okay. It's still both moves are playable. So it would come out to be the same. Knight takes g6. Knight g6. Knight gf6. Bishop f4. When you have isolated pawn like this, you have space, and so you play around the space. You don't want to trade any pieces if you don't have to. He played that move, which, again, this was actually the best continuation after castles. I think that, surprisingly, even white can castle here. And then he's activated all of his pieces. Black is still cramped because of this pawn right here on d5. Surprisingly, that isolated pawn is actually a bone-crunching problem in his throat, as we like to say. So he plays up here. There we go. And then, see, it's really odd how, if he's going to play this, he should have just played here. And then when the knight moves to like something like that, just bring the bishop back if we're going to do that. You've at least won a pawn. Don't allow him to consolidate. So he plays bishop e2. And this is the weirdest thing. He actually, blunders it right back. Bishop would have been the best. There we go, like what we talked about. Still, excuse me, he still could have actually made. I think black could have actually had a close to winning position here because of the integrity of his pawn structure. And he's getting closer to an endgame. But he blundered. Why didn't he just play bishop d8 and then bring his rook over, or do this and then reroute? Oh, wow. I think he was afraid of this type of bone crunching space grab. But remember, pawns can never, ever, ever go back. Bishop e3, bishop d6, and then g3. And this allows for probably castles and then tucking his king into g2. Also, I think it has to do with a very important sitch. The black wants to come into f4, and with f4 comes there's a lot of problems because you can start eliminating pieces and causing the game to go towards an endgame. So it comes here, g3 stops the knight and the bishop from coming to f4. Rook rook e8 is dubious because there's really nothing it doesn't really do anything. Like what the computer said, the best move would have been actually hf6 and then castles. Now develop the rooks. Started to clamp. See what you see how white clamped down on that pawn. They in Jeremy Silman's the Endgame book. He actually talks about this. He calls this the ice. When a pawn like a freeze, deep freeze. He calls it the deep freeze because one pawn freezes two. So it's like one really cold pawn takes care of two. And then so now white's, I think black's, it's equal. I don't really see any advantage for either person. No way that white can actually lose his pawn because there's no way for the bishop. The rook can't come in because of e5 square's guarded twice. The pawn's guarded here. There's really no way for the bishop to come to the attack. This pawn on d3 is going to fall, so when this pawn falls, white's better at that point. But he plays g3, that was a blunder, and it allows Emanuel Lasker to actually reroute. Now he has enough attackers that he could actually play knight takes c4 and destroy the piece that's blockading his pawn. There it is. Boom. Knight e5. a3, the lockdown. He now has the ability of coming here. See, black had an idea of potentially maybe bringing this bishop back and then playing knight to b6 to trade off some pieces. But with this move of a5, cuts all that out of the equation. If you were the one that saw that, wonderful job. You're doing so great. And like what we say, always like on YouTube, it'd be much appreciated if you click sub and thumbs up. The stream would be great too. And on Twitch, follow would be wonderful. And if you could subscribe, that'd be great too. Okay, let's see what we got here. Bishop takes, check. Takes, and now what could happen is rook c1, and he's protecting the pawn, preparing to play knight d1, knight d2, and then play c4, protecting his passed pawn now. Ooh, ouch. That's like, oh, right there. Oh. And so it's like pain right there just seeing that. There we go. Now he's protecting and he's getting ready to play c4. What idea did I gotta go back. What was white's idea? Black's idea. The only idea was to trade the knight, and Lasker's not gonna do that because he knows that he wants to get his connected passers going. That was a blunder. There was no reason to take that bishop. No, not one at all. he should have kept his knight there, and either like what the computer said, kick it out via f3, kick this knight out so that knight would have to come back. Or another idea would be c4, with the idea of protecting his pawn. It's protected 3 times, and then maybe later on playing f3. After the knight moves back, then the king can come up, and you're connecting the rooks. You know, I don't that move of taking. I don't know why Lasker did that. Why would you trade a good knight for a horrible bishop? He's still winning though. Castles. He takes, which is actually a dubious move. You wanna actually activate your pieces, and the way to activate your pieces is to actually play bishop to f4. Okay, one moment. I'll be right back. I will put on lead chess so you can watch while I'm gone for a second. There we go. Oops, wrong. Not the tournament. We want to watch a live TV. There we go. There we go. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, let's get back into some of the games now. Okay. Okay, now we did that he took um, f takes, which now see I think the reason this was a bad move was it allows one pawn to lock down 3. See, he should have kept his ideas open with this move. I know why. I know why I wanted to play this. This very interesting continuation of. Yeah, I actually could play this move here after, and have a fork on the knights. So, but he allowed the lockdown of the pawn, and I think it might turn out to be a draw again. This move would have been a better continuation. See, watch, I'll show you. Now he's got two protected pawns coming pretty soon. At this point, probably up here. I probably would play this move right now. Then A5, rook takes, king up. Rook would have to come back. Now you're starting to get your pawns rolling. And if he tries something like this, then you can actually potentially maneuver your rook around, and you don't take never take this, because then that would re-hook up and you get a pass, or play here and then come around. Now at this point you push up. If the king the king can't come up because of blocking and losing. If he came up here, Lasker would love that. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to go back. He played this move instead of up. Takes. This is a complete winning position right here. Because after takes here, what you can play is check, king up, and actually I'm sorry. Here you would actually, rather than do that, you'd push the pawn. If you push there, push the pawn. There's no way to stop it. So the pawn move. All right, here this one's a mistake. Delete, and so now this is he can't take there, so he'd have to move his king over. He'd check, move his king over. And he can actually now check when the king takes, comes up. He starts grabbing these pawns over here, and if that happens, there you go. Actually, probably would it be better to take this pawn, because no, then he'd come there. Yeah, I'm thinking this might be the best. Then if he comes down with check. Then he comes up. Now he's covering so that there's none of this checking and then pushing and queening. Yeah, it's just crazy. Okay. He blundered with taking there. King takes. He took here. That was another complete blunder. He needs to, like what was talked about here. This will give black at least some sort of counterplay with these pawn pushes and a break. But by taking the A pawn, it's way too slow. He's not going to be able to actually get back in time. And then he loses. Because it's actually mate in 9. If he tries something like this, you can just come up. There's nothing more that the check. He can't come here because of queening. If he comes up there, no more checks again. You could try this. And that's still a lost game. So we'll go on to the last and final game. We did it in under an hour. We got 5 wonderful games from Emanuel Lasker done. And with some analyzing, we could always improve on that. So e4, e5. So this is Emanuel Lasker's game. And knight f3 or f6, and then some reason Niles plays this type of fianchettoed position up here a lot. Takes now. Lasker accomplished a very important endgame. Actually, that's a trump card. No pun on that, but it actually is that he has 3 pawn islands versus 2. So endgame, white would be having a hard time holding this. So if all these pieces were gone off the board, I'll just do a different color here, and it was just left to this king here and this king. The black king would actually be able to outflank the white king and come over and grab that A2 pawn. You always got to look long distance for your pawn structure. Like white now has to either do one or two things. One is he has to use this to somehow unwind, or he has to trade this a pawn off for something, or maybe use it as a lockdown of black's 3 versus 2. So you have to actually think about that. You just say, what about 3 versus 4? Not when the pawns are double like this. This is considered. These are what they consider 3. So I mean, this is considered. I apologize, 3, because one here, and then one there. So 3 versus 3. D4. He's trying to unwind queen. And now what Emanuel Lasker is, he's not going to trade. Trading, just promise me when you guys play, don't take this. Don't. That all of what Emanuel Lasker works for is over. This position here, by just keeping the queen here and not trading off, he has how many ice? Let's talk about how many pawn islands. First of all, got a little word tongue tied there. 1 pawn island here, one, 2, and 3. So he has basically 1, 2, 3, 4 pawn islands. How many does black have? 1, 2. So again, if it came down to just the lone kings, all the pieces were off the board for both sides, and it was just king versus king. Black would be completely winning a complete one game, because there's no way that white can handle the weaknesses of these pawns and at the same time hold these pawns. Because what black might do is distract white to come over and try to hold these in the end game, and then come over with his king and just gobble all these pawns up, and then have his 3 passers just march down the board like the line in a football game, that if the defense makes it through, the quarterback's going to have a hard and a painful time. So each 92 castles, and Miles is just thinking, I trade, whatever you do, please trade. And Lasker's like, nah, we're so hard for you to get these horrible pawns. I'm not gonna allow you to undouble one pair of them. And now he's forced. He comes back. This is kind of the black's only last ditch attempt to kind of hold the position together with rook b e3, and then there's no way he can really take 'cause the knight's guarding. So like if he tries this move here, rook comes over. If he tries knight maybe to pivot in this way to attack here, there's always rook, knight, bishop there. So you got to always think about what is my plan. So now he's coming over, a double attack on the pawn, and pretty soon Lasker is going to unwind his pieces and then remove this queen and win this pawn on c3, and basically go to an endgame where he's so much better. Bishop e4, interesting idea, threatening to win h7 with check, trying to hold all of the weak pawns together. Now you get to see the power of weak pawns. Yeah, that was a blunder. Don't. That was a complete mistake. He needed to keep his bishop there and move his queen. He needs to get his pieces untangled, and then potentially try maybe to push these pawns, use it as a lockdown on the queen side, and do something with it. But he took there, which actually it was a mistake, a waste of time. Now that was dubious. He should have actually probably at this point played d4. But I know what you're thinking. Why not play c5 here? I think let me see. What is the drawback to? Oh, so it does like my idea of c5. So it did like c5. And then rook comes over, and then you nab the. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And he takes, and then you see win a pawn, and you're coming back here. Rook takes, bishop takes, queen. And you have the two bishops. At the end of all the complications, black's up one pawn. He has the two bishops versus two rooks. I prefer the bishops because of one situation. The pawns are on both sides of the board. If these pawns were gone, I would say that white has an advantage. But because there's still two pawns, there's pawn islands on both sides of the boards, I would say that black has the advantage now. Probably slight advantage, not much, maybe one pawn. But that's enough for Emanuel Lasker to win. That was a really, really important, devastating move there. Queen takes. I like the computers. The computer it's just so sweet. Just play bishop e6. What's just play that. The queen has to move, and you still win that. And now you're probably 5 pawns up because you haven't lost your f7 pawn. Your bishop's developed. Worst case scenario, if the knight comes here, so you don't get rid of your light squared bishop, you can always trade off. Bishop takes knight, pawn takes, and then queen f7, r5 would be a good move there. So then we play queen takes there, knight comes up. Ooh, see, the reason this is a really nice continuation is you're allowing the flow of both rooks to come in. You're also not weakening yourself along the g1 to a7 diagonal. So, but I think Miles got scared. And then the queen comes back. And He's starting to lose. He's starting to start. White's starting to take over. I mean, black is. Emanuel Lasker loves when players start fearing, because then that's when he steps up his game and becomes the one of the best players in the world. That's how he held the title for so long. He just, you know what? He would slowly play people out of positions, even when he was maybe completely lost. He just wouldn't give up, and everybody'd be like, "Why don't you just give up?" Because there is no giving up. You either win or you get checkmated. That's the way of a tiger. And so always remember that. Don't give up. It may seem like the game's over. Don't give up. F takes d8. I mean F d8. I mean bishop, and then in comes the rook. Now we have a rover up and over. Now doubling up, and then you go cha-ching. You're actually probably close to a complete victory here. I'd almost say game, set, and match. Yeah, that's a blunder. It's game over. I'm going to turn off the algo. And I want to see if you can find the mate. Can you find the mate in 5? I'll give you a second. You made it this long with me on all 5 of Miles and Emanuel Lasker's game. I'm going to give this beautiful mate in 5 to you. Wonderful job. If you spotted, first starts with a check. He takes, then there's a check, and then what happens? It comes to F1, and then there's checkmate. That's beautiful. And so that set up for the mate. He did that, and Emanuel Lasker, rather than he could actually win mate this way too. If you don't take, let's say you don't take, we should actually show another mating idea. Right here, coming in. Now you're threatening mate here. There's no way to stop. One of these mates is going to happen. And so what you'd have to do is come up. Actually, you can't. I'm trying to see, is there any way to throw a kink? Maybe the king starts to run. That could be that could be what they were talking about here. But then you can play rook there, and if rook comes here, I might be losing the position. Let me see. So let me see if there's actually after this. Okay, one to hold. I'm thinking maybe then this is a tricky one. And I don't think there's now a way to stop the mate at that point. Yeah, that's the way to do it. We'll show you right here. Because right here, he pushed the pawn back, queen up, come there. We got to get rid of this. This isn't the right move order. So we're going to do it right. So here, there, bishop G, because now you're threatening. You have to take. Because you actually, in theory, could. I think you could. I think you still have this move here you could play. There's a couple stitches that you can actually do. If you take here, you could take there, 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 check. And you still could checkmate him with one of these two moves. Wow, that's such a one position. That was beautiful, so beautiful. And so Emanuel Lasker won. So I wanted to thank you for all participating and coming on. And you know what? Always remember to, like what we always say, Wesley, so always remember to receive the Lord Jesus, Lord Savior of your life. It's a very important decision we all have to make because chess is very, very a big way of thinking, and I know you can solve it. You could do it, and you need to always be looking for the best move, like what we talked about. This is just a little talk, and keep pushing forward, like what we always like to say. Never, never give up. If a position looks lost, just keep pushing forward. Your opponent might blunder, and you might even win that game. So keep going. And you know what? Always remember, you can come back to Chess Cruncher TV, and we can do games. You can talk on the chat, and I'll try to answer. And we're just here to learn. So always remember to do that. And thank you again for coming. Be blessed, my friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.